Hey everyone, and thank you so much for joining us here today. This is a day that we have been preparing for a long time, and 100% comes in response to what we have been hearing from women all across this country for the last 2 years, a little bit more than that, in terms of the real chaos, havoc, and harm that the so-called parents' rights movement is causing among our kids and in our communities. Before we get started, I just need to personally thank all of the mothers who are stepping up and using their voices and joining us today on this call. It's no small thing. It's a brave thing. We are up against well-funded, powerful forces, and despite that, they are choosing not to be quiet. They're saying, I'm going to speak up in my community. And not only that, I'm going to band together with other mothers to speak up on behalf of the majority of moms and parents everywhere. So that takes courage. And so I'm grateful to all of you here today. So let's talk about those powerful, well-funded forces. Conservative extremists really think that they have found their golden ticket with what they're calling parents' rights. And that's a drumbeat we've been hearing for a while now. It started with this specific flavor in the spring of 2021. Not the first time in American history we've heard this, we've seen this used, but the spring of 2021 is when this really began in terms of the attacks that we are seeing today. We are seeing parents' rights used in the presidential primary already for 2024. We're seeing it at school board meetings and state houses all across the country, in most states in this country, being used to pass all kinds of restrictive censorship laws that are hurting kids and limiting the freedom of parents. We're even seeing it in battles to restore reproductive rights. In a post-Roe v. Wade America, we're seeing conservative extremists use parental rights as an argument to try to undermine our reproductive rights as well. So here's the problem. So far, there has been no establishment response to this parents' rights assault on our kids. So as moms living in states that are highly targeted with these attacks, political leaders, they may have a choice. Sitting in Washington, D.C., they decide for whatever reason to ignore it. Well, we don't. We don't have that choice. We are seeing these impacts in our communities and among our kids every day. I think that probably most of you know that the current generation of kids, they're experiencing higher levels of anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation. This is a crisis among our kids in America. So this is highly personal, and we truly have no choice but to speak up, because rather than supporting our kids, these are making all of those problems worse with the impact of taking away the very supports they need. They need teachers right now. They need mental health support, suicide prevention, and all of this stuff is leading us in another direction. So we are speaking out today, launching a new campaign called the Freedom to Parent 21st Century Kids. The harsh reality of this so-called parents' rights movement is that it has nothing to do with actually reinforcing rights or the freedom of parents at all. It's about undermining public education and actually trying to control the way the rest of us parent. When it comes to issues of how race is taught in the classroom, how issues of gender are discussed in the classroom, whether or not we can have social emotional learning, something our children so need, mental health supports right now, even the safety to be able to drop our kids off at school and know that for one more day, hopefully they won't be shot. That's a worry that we have to have in this day and age. We have all been touched by gun violence. We want the freedom to be able to decide what's best for our kids so that we can actually ensure their success, that they can be prepared for a diverse and changing world, so they can be prepared for a 21st century global economy. And we want to be able to ensure their safety, to make sure that they can be in classrooms that are safe from guns, that are safe from bullying and harassment. But our freedom to do that as parents is being taken away by this so-called parental rights movement that claims to speak for us every day. And we can't have that anymore. It's too dangerous for our kids. It's bad and divisive for our communities. And we are misrepresented as mainstream moms representing the majority of parents. So we are launching this new campaign called Freedom to Parent 21st Century Kids. We have just launched a website in the last 8 minutes with our Freedom to Parent campaign. We're very excited to share that with all of you. I just want to give you a few, just at a high level, what this campaign includes. We are going to be having regular virtual events, at least through 2024, that are all about bringing moms together for conversations where there are safe spaces to talk about a lot of the complex issues that are involved in parenting today. There's a lot to navigate out there. When all of us on this call were coming up in school, a lot of the issues that we're talking about today weren't discussed at all. So we recognize maybe we're not totally equipped and we still have more learning to do. But what we know is that every child needs to be treated with dignity and be able to learn in a safe learning environment. So we better have good places to learn from each other and ask those questions. So we're going to be doing that. We're also going to be bringing in parenting experts and mental health experts to support us as we learn together. And then we're going to be doing training. At Red, Wine, and Blue, we're known for our troublemaker trainings. We're expanding them so that we can address all of these attacks on SEL and teaching race and history, and why are there attacks on mental health programs? How do we talk about this so-called parental rights movement? We want moms to feel prepared when this comes to their community, whether it's school board or in their state legislature. We want them to feel prepared, because you know what? When these loudest voices get really, really loud in your community, it can make us feel isolated and alone, but we're not. We're the majority, despite how sometimes it gets represented in these media narratives. So we're going to provide spaces for women to come together, learn from each other, and get trained to be able to cause that good trouble back in our communities and make our kids proud. We're also going to be launching what we call our Little Band Book Club. Red, Wine, and Blue already has a band book club. This is going to be one specifically focused for parents who have kids in the schools K through 12 to really talk about what are these kids' books that are getting banned. Let's talk about why and what we can do about those. And this summer, we're launching Little Band bookmobiles all across the country as well, to make sure that these communities where books are being ripped out of them, that we can be of service and putting them right back in. Those are just a few of the things that we'll be launching all across the country. So no matter where you live, you can participate virtually. And then also Red, Wine, and Blue has Suburban mom organizers on the ground in 5 states at this point. So, and then there'll be opportunities, even if we don't have organizers on the ground in those spaces, we're going to be equipping any mom who wants to participate. So with that, I'm going to start introducing our amazing moms who have been living this up close and personal in their lives, this parents' rights assault on our kids, why they want to speak up for their freedom, the success they're having on this so far, why it's so important for us to raise our voices together. And I do just want to say is that as daunting as this can be, as extremism showing up in our communities can be, as daunting as it can be and frustrating to see these headlines of, you know, parents making these extreme demands that don't represent the majority of us at all. I know, and everyone on this call, we actually know that in the end, we can win this thing. We can fight back successfully because we are the majority. So we're going to lead if our political leaders won't. We're happy that we've started to hear at least some of them starting to stand up against book bans and such, but we need more. So we're going to lead, and we know in the end that we will win, and we have no other choice but to do this for the good of our kids. So with that, I am first going to announce from Ohio, Jill Jonathan. She's from Liberty Township, which is in Ohio, outside of the Cincinnati area. And she's going to talk about how parents are fighting back against extremism on her school board in the Lakota School District. So Jill, I'm going to pass it to you.
Thank you, Katie, so much. I really appreciate everybody's time and the opportunity to talk about what's happening in my community. So I'm a mom of an 8th grader, almost high schooler, and a 5th grader, and they go to the Lakota School District, which is a northern suburb of Cincinnati. It's a huge school district. My kids both started in the schools in kindergarten, and they've been thriving. We have been so happy with the schools. They are both doing great, and our vision was for our kids to graduate from Lakota schools. But in 2021, an extremist was voted on our school board, and it's been detrimental. And our community has been turned upside down. So a little bit about our school board member is that she's anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion. She's anti-trans kids. She's anti-social emotional learning. She's anti-student activism. She's anti-suicide prevention programs. You heard that right. She is a person who does not have kids in the school district. She homeschools them. So we're a little confused of why she's even serving on a public education school board. And in Ohio, there's really nothing you can do. You can't exactly fire a school board member. She's been asked to resign. She has refused. So as a community, we're taking matters into our own hands because she would be up for re-election in 2025. They're 4-year terms. We don't want to wait until 2025 to vote her out. So we're doing what we can. And what we can do is litigation. So we were able to fund to pay for an attorney and file a formal complaint against this person, which includes trespassing on school grounds. That was included in the complaint. That did happen. And right now we're in the process of collecting signatures. And when we have enough, then the complaint will go before an impartial judge and our county's court of common pleas. And then the evidence will then be presented by our attorney, and then the court will decide if the school board member will be removed from office. So gathering signatures means sending postcards, standing outside the library, standing outside of events, and people are ready to see this person removed. She does not belong there. Extremism does not belong in our school district. So I would just like to say that I know that in my community, we're not alone with what we're dealing with. I talk to women every day across the country, and it's widespread. It's everywhere. And that's exactly why we need something like Freedom to Parent. And I'm so excited about this because, like Katie said, we need to join together. We need to make sure that our kids are prepared for the future, because we're not taking this quietly. We're going to do what we can because I believe that there always is something that you can do. So thank you for listening. That's the story of what's going on in my community.
Thank you, Jill. And you're so right. That is happening in countless communities all across the country. And I know that you're going to inspire so many other moms to speak up as well. All right, next I'd like to introduce Stephanie Klein, who is here with us from North Carolina. And she is going to talk about a support group that she has created for LGBTQ plus youth, despite facing harassment from people affiliated with Moms for Liberty.
I'm the founder of Clever. We're a 501c3 nonprofit out of Iredell County, North Carolina. And we focus in on youth advocacy, youth LGBTQ advocacy. And we do a bunch of things. We mostly, our biggest thing is we meet weekly with kids. We started out with 4 kids several years ago. I started Clever 5 years ago, and the youth group started 3 years ago. We started with 4 kids, and now we have anywhere from 20 to 25 kids that come each week. They come as far as 2 hours away to come to group. Their age is, 9 all the way up to 17. But they're a big family. They're a bunch of siblings. And other than that, we also work with kids who they don't feel comfortable coming to group. They've had trauma, whether it be from the community, from schools, from their personal lives, and they might not feel comfortable coming to group. So I talk to them every week. They text me, we call. Sometimes I go to their house and I sit outside the room when they're having a hard day and they just talk to me through the door. We're just here for kids, and Iredell County is a really red place. Like it's a red county, and it is full of extremism. So when I moved to North Carolina originally, I'm from right outside of DC. I was a little bit shocked because I didn't realize that the level of racism, the level of attacks on the LGBTQ community would like still happened like it does in North Carolina. I really, I'm obviously privileged to live in a place that was very diverse. Um, it was a culture shock here, and I always knew I wanted to create a safe space for these kids. Something that we didn't have growing up in the 80s and 90s. Um, and it just kind of flowed together. And with the community members, and we're all volunteers, and we keep everybody as safe as possible. And the kids, they put on a rally at the end of March. And Clever is sponsoring the first Pride in Mooresville ever, because the Mooresville town doesn't want to have anything to do with LGBTQ people. So we're throwing a big party. And the kids are involved in all of it. The attacks that you mentioned. So politics are difficult, but it's not really politics. And I think we're all seeing that it's more extremism that's hidden under the name of politics, the name of religion, the name of parenting, when none of it really has to do with that. The kids face extreme bullying here in North Carolina in schools, especially in our area, but I know all across North Carolina. We have a lot of, I will say, self-harm, attempted unaliving, those kinds of things. A lot of suicide rates here are high with kids in North Carolina, and there's just not a lot of support outside of the city. And that's kind of what Clever China aims to do and would like to do as we spread out further in the country, is focus on areas that are, they can't get to the city, they can't get to these bigger organizations. Here in Iredell County, we have a really loud Moms for Liberty group. And the chair of the Iredell County Moms for Liberty, she has no problem with posting pictures of kids online, putting their information out there, doxing them basically. And she got the people that follow her in these Moms for Liberty groups, they don't really know what Clever does, because we're so quiet about it, because we don't let the public in, and our number one priority is safety. And so I get sent screenshots all the time from Moms for Liberty, where my name pops up here and there. And people really truly think that, they think we were sent here by Democrats to take over the county. They think that we are giving kids hormone treatments and all that kind of stuff. And they spread that information to the public, and it scares the public. When in reality, our kids meet and we have dinner and we talk, and it's just a great time together. But churches are attacking us, and the kids are just really having a hard time with it. They're hurting here in North Carolina.
Thank you, Stephanie, for your bravery in sharing what's going on, and what's going on for far too many families all across the country. We're hearing increased reports of this harassment. Thank you for sharing what the human impact of that is, Stephanie. Okay, next, I wanted to introduce Carrie Warzinski, who is joining us from Western Pennsylvania. She's a parent and a librarian, and she's going to tell us about how parents from all political backgrounds are coming together to defeat extremism in Southside School District. Yeah, I'm going to have to let you just get into the details on this one, Carrie. Bring it.
Thanks, Katie. As Katie said, I'm Carrie, and I live in Western Pennsylvania, and I'm a librarian. And I initially started hearing about book bans coming to Western Pennsylvania in February of 2022. And just following the news of other districts in Pennsylvania, I knew that meant extremism was coming to our districts in all forms, whether that meant anti-LGBT LGBTQ policies, anti-SEL, discriminatory policies, and book bans. And so because of that, I became friends with a number of women around Western Pennsylvania. And I befriended a woman who lives in Beaver County, which is adjacent to my county, and just started talking about what was going on in her district in Southside Beaver. And it turns out that it was going off the rails there. It's a small district, about 900 students. And last October, they had a teacher who refused to use a student's pronouns and constantly dead named the student. And turns out this has been going on for a while, but it came to a head. And in response to that teacher, the district, instead of just letting him go, because this was a repeated incident, he was placed on administrative leave for a week, was let go, or not let go, sorry. He was reinstated, and the school decided to reevaluate their policy and create this pronoun committee to determine how to use pronouns in schools, which is ridiculous because, you know, we should treat all students how they deserve to be treated. Well, Meta, my friend in Southside, she started standing up to it. She's a mom, and she said, I'm not taking this. This is not right. And we started working together and organizing. And then it really blew up in March, and a whole bunch of alumni came together and created a group for a school district that only has 900 students. There's over 120 alumni, LGBTQ alumni and allies. There's another group of 80 parents, teachers, community members who are interested, and they come from all backgrounds. You know, some are consider themselves progressive, some are Republicans and just say, you know, I have a child who's gay and this is not okay. And it's been incredible to see even the school board candidates who are running there. They have an unofficial slate of 5 people who are aligned and running to come together and defeat the extremist Moms for Liberty candidates. And I'm really rooting for them in our primary next Tuesday.
Thank you so much, Carrie. We're seeing that across the country too. People from across political backgrounds who represent the majority standing up to extremism. Thank you for sharing how you're seeing that. Okay, next I want to ask for Kara Erskine, who is from Michigan, a mom and Air Force veteran whose daughter witnessed the Oxford school shooting in Michigan in 2021. Go ahead, Kara.
I am a U.S. vet. I am not anti-gun. I want to say that to be really clear. As a veteran, I'm also the daughter of an Army veteran and who later became a policewoman. So I was raised around guns. I own firearms myself, but I highly believe in common sense gun laws. My daughter is currently a junior at Oxford High School, and last year on November 30th, she was a sophomore. So on that day, I had my phone silenced because I had a lot of meetings coming in. And so after that, I saw all these texts in a group chat from my daughter and her father. And at first, no one in my daughter's class thought it was an actual active shooter on campus. They thought it was just another drill because they have them so often. Once they realized it was not a drill, they locked the doors with the night locks that have now been distributed throughout schools here in Michigan. They've closed the windows, and then everyone kind of huddled in the corner. I was 45 minutes away when I'm reading all these texts about my daughter being in an active shooter situation. And so I started driving, probably speeding just a little bit, and I see all of these Michigan State Patrol officer cars flying past me. And of course I knew where they were going, which just really heightened my anxiety. At one point, my daughter sent a text of a picture with her and her friend to let us know that they were okay, with the thumbs up. they felt the need to comfort us as their parents, while they're in the middle of this mass shooting where 4 students died and 7 were injured, one including a teacher. So after she texted us, what felt like hours, but was honestly probably just in a span of minutes, my daughter let us know that they were finally being evacuated to Meyer, which is about 1 to 2 miles down the street, where they had to run. They weren't allowed to take their bags. They weren't allowed to take any belongings, and were just told to go to Meyer, go to Meyer, go to Meyer. Her dad picked him up, and I finally got to meet her at their house. And it wasn't until I was there and I had her, and she's 5'11", I'm 5'7", so there's quite a height difference. And I just hugged her so hard that I finally broke down. And I'm trained for this, right? We've been working really hard here in Michigan to pass gun violence prevention laws and have a great start. But we need more parents to be involved. We have to show our elected officials that gun safety is important to us. And a lot of Michiganders, we love our firearms, especially up in the UP, but we did pass 3 laws recently. And I just want people to know that what happened to me and my family doesn't have to happen to you in order for you to care. And it shouldn't have to happen to you in order for you to get involved.
Thank you so much, Kara. And I just need to say that including gun safety in this Freedom to Parent campaign is something that we heard as absolutely essential. But being able to keep our kids safe in school means safe from guns, it means safe from bullying, it means safe from harassment. This is what parents care about. This is what it means to be free as a parent, to keep our kids safe. We need the freedom to be able to protect them. So this was critical that we include this. And Kara, thank you so much for sharing that truly terrifying story. Okay, Ravita, I want to ask you to come up. You're a mom in Williamson County, Tennessee, and you have successfully fought to protect books from being banned. You are our last speaker before we get to questions and answers. Thank you, Ravita.
Well, I want to thank you all for the opportunity. I am so excited about the Freedom to Parent campaign. We at One Wilco started in 2020 after the George Floyd killings, highlighting a lot of racial disparities that we were witnessing in our county. And so we really focus on equity for students, safety. It seems like the agenda in the laser light, you never know what's going to be next with what we're dealing with. I think there's a perception that sometimes parents on the other side don't care about books and things of that nature. And in 2018, my 6th grade son was reading a book called The Outsiders. And, my quick little Google search led me to think, oh my God, this might be something that, I need to have a discussion with him about. Express my concern to my son's teacher. She had the librarian call me. And after that conversation, my fears were addressed. It was a book that I was very happy that my son got to read. And my now 7th grader has read the book as well. So this parental right law that is being set out there as something new is something that we parents have been using and utilizing all the time. It's not necessary to have a law to be engaged as a parent. I don't want parents to not be engaged. So it's just a ploy to try to create lip service and make up additional laws and to scare people. We currently in Williamson County, which is right outside of Nashville. We are a very red district. Our school boards have been designed to be partisan as a law from our governor. And it's really creating problems. We've had a parental complaint about some books that were discussed at our recent school board meeting. And the parent was resolved with what happened. They were satisfied with the resolution. There was hundreds of hours put into this committee to review these books. And then some of our school board members have decided that that's not enough. And so Tennessee, we have one of the most restrictive laws against books that is made and designed to be very vague. And so our school board members are now saying, well, we're waiting on directives from the state. The state is not going to come and save you and tell you what to do. They made that law vague on purpose. And so our school board is kind of holding up some of that because, as I said, the parental complaint has been resolved, but it's the school board members who are continuing to try to push an agenda to restrict books and control what others think. So to combat this, we've really joined together with our One Wilco community. We saying nothing is not an option. We feel like, I know me personally, I feel like I'm not going to let the rocks cry out for me. I'm going to go and speak and be present to express concern about these things. So we consistently show up monthly at our school board meetings. We show them and remind them that we are a collective group of families from all religious backgrounds, from all racial backgrounds, and we are concerned about the bans that are taking place in our community. So we just continue to try to make our presence known. And while some of the groups mentioned here are not showing up at those school board meetings anymore, we are consistently there to make sure that our kids know. And if I can add one more thing, we have found that when students are engaged in speaking, they are heard at a different level. So we have tried to switch our focus, since we can't do much with our partisan school board, to pour into students to make sure that their voices can be heard. So we are continuing to do that and advocate for that. And I'm grateful for the Freedom to Parent campaign that is going to help to empower many of the other parents in our district to find their voice and speak up and not be silent. So thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ravita. You are such a role model for other moms, and you are right. We're speaking up for the majority of parents and the majority of kids. Oh my goodness, is it a majority of kids who don't want this messing up with their education? So I want to make that point, that freedom to parent is a verb. We are parenting our kids, and this is about parents and teens and kids coming together to speak up for the majority and to speak up for our freedom, and to not have a small vocal minority of extremists control everyone else and take away our rights to safety and success. Okay, are there questions? I know we're running a little bit over here. These stories are powerful.
Yes,
And,
so if
yeah.
anyone is interested in asking a question, please submit it by typing into the Q&A function and state your question, name, and outlet, and then let us know if you would like to come off of mute to ask. We do have our first question from the Tennessean. How does your group plan to respond to the continuing push to ban and restrict books in school libraries across this country and state in Tennessee?
So Red, Wine, and Blue is working with a coalition of local parents groups all across the country. We also have national partners who care deeply about this. And the key is really providing that support for local organizing that all of these moms have been involved in on the ground. You cannot solve this without getting in there and supporting these local moms and kids who want to stand up for their freedom. So it's about providing that local organizing support. It's providing access to training and a supportive community. Sometimes the biggest challenge we face is just that feeling of feeling isolated and alone, feeling like, where is this extremism? And they're the loudest voices. And am I the only one here who just thinks that this is completely not the best thing for our kids? And they very quickly find, as soon as moms find us, they very quickly find they are not alone. The 3 people who show up at the first meeting turns into 30 or 300 pretty quickly. And so we're going to keep providing that support, that training. We're going to be holding weekly troublemaker trainings so that women feel confident to stand up and speak out. We're going to be having these Ask Me Anything events so that moms can get answers to hard questions from other moms. And everything we do is about making that ability to use your voice feel more accessible. Not some academic, far off advocacy organization type thing, but really just something that is here for moms and to provide that support. So it'll be day in and day out, and it'll be on the ground.
Great. Just a reminder, if you have questions, please submit them into the Q&A function. Our next question is the effect, at least partly, a response to groups like Moms for Liberty?
I'm going to give a pretty straightforward answer here. Yes. Moms for Liberty is one of many groups out there. There are localized different versions of them and other national organizations, No Left Turn in Education, Parents Defending Education. They all have very misleading names, kind of like Moms for Liberty. Not so pro-liberty, it turns out. Not so pro-freedom, it turns out. They are one of many groups causing chaos. They represent a narrow minority, even though often just one or two of them in a given community can end up in the headlines as though they're speaking for all parents, which is deeply harmful and frustrating for those of us here today. We are increasingly hearing stories. Some of them you heard from Stephanie, and others have experienced them in our community as well, of harassment, intimidation of moms, of children, of families. And I think that there's an increasing awareness because those behaviors are gaining some public attention. Also, some of the extremism of some of their views, we've talked about them here today. They also want to defund the PTA. I mean, once people start hearing about that, they start to question, some of the nice sounding words like moms and liberty. Once they start to learn more about it and how extreme this really is. So we are, once again, just to emphasize, this is Freedom to Parent is about women from all political backgrounds coming together to speak up for the majority and to say no to exactly that kind of extremism.
Great. Thank you, Katie. Well, I'm just going to leave it with you to give a few closing remarks, and then we will let everyone go. So thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I just again want to thank all the moms for sharing your stories here today. I want to thank journalists for joining us as well today, taking the time to help our voices be heard. And to please don't hesitate to follow up. And the stories you heard today just barely scratch the surface of sharing the total chaos and harm that the parents' rights assault is causing, the damage it's causing in our communities and among our kids. So we went over time here, and I apologize for that. At the same time, I hope it gives you some glimpse into what is actually happening on the ground. We could have gone on for 4 hours, not just 40 minutes, with more and more moms, not just these moms, just so many moms sharing these stories of what's going on in their communities. So that's why we're launching Freedom to Parent, because these moms and so many others all across the country are done just letting the parents' rights crowd wreak havoc in our communities. And we know that we are stronger if we speak up together. And we are no longer going to let them proclaim that liberty or freedom is theirs, when in fact what they're doing is about controlling what other parents do and the decisions we make, and undermining the freedom that we deserve to be able to keep our children safe and to prepare them for success. So please do visit the Freedom to Parent campaign on the Red, Wine, and Blue website. See all of our state, local, national partners. We have a great video sharing more about the campaign. We have events that people can RSVP for. Lots of Q&A there to some of the hard questions that we as parents are contending with today. We're not going to duck them. We are going to wrestle with them, because parenting is worth it. So we're in this together. We thank you all for joining us today.